Welcome to Rethink Your Legacy. This is a conversation designed to help you live your family's values before you leave this world. I'm Francisco Servent, attorney and problem solver at law, your host. Today, we're going to talk about something that just breaks my heart. $500,000 lost to the probate lawyers in the last few years of a man's life. This is one man's story, and we're going to dig into it today. The title of today's show, what we're going to focus on is the three methods that the government probate system uses to actually control your life and rip families apart. Look, folks, we've got to protect our families. My biggest passion here is that you walk away from today knowing that the family values that you hold most dear, that you've been trying to raise your kids with, and for some of you now, you're trying to take care of your parents. Those family values that are most dear to you, you've got to take some steps to protect your families from this government system. I mean, happy 4th of July. It's a little bit different this year, right? No big giant crowds out hot and sweaty watching fireworks. It was a little different, kind of a bummer that that we didn't get to do the same old thing that we always do to celebrate the holiday. But, there were probably some other things we did, some other things that you did, keeping safety first. So, drop us a comment. Let us know, what did you do to celebrate 4th of July this year? And maybe you developed some kind of new fun tradition. I don't know. But what that really shows me, what that tells me every single day, is just another example of how the government can jump in, completely upend our lives. It's just a clear example that when the government says something, it catches us off guard, and they can just rip our lives right out from under us. And you know what? It's the same thing when it comes to all these life phases we have to go through, and the probate system just jumping in and tearing lives apart. Look, what we're going to focus on is this man's story. He was one of the massive travesties that happened here in Maricopa County that led to a giant investigation. This was about 10 years ago. The Arizona Republic did a huge investigation into the system. I wish we could say that it's better, it's been fixed, and that the changes that came to the system because of his story have completely fixed it. But I'm a lawyer in this same world, and it's still happening. This is one of the stories that made such big public headlines that we can talk about it openly because the facts of all of it are just laid out there. And so this was a guy, 81 years old. He literally lost $500,000 to lawyers. And this was an 81-year-old guy who talk about being in the most vulnerable stage of life. There he was. He had saved, he had worked hard his whole life. He had kids, he had a family, and when he becomes the most vulnerable adult that we have here, he's dragged through probate while he's alive. So one of the things we're going to talk about is this guy's story, Mr. Sleeth, and his battle to try to get himself out of of being a ward of the state and to get back some of this money that was supposed to be there to take care of him and act as his nest egg. We're going to talk about how even the best families out there, the ones who have great relationships, their marriage has been going on 60 years, and the kids all get along. We're going to talk about how even in those situations, the best laid intentions that weren't done well, that weren't executed correctly, end up with the kids fighting against each other, end up with the kids fighting against the surviving spouse, or just even in the best of circumstances, end up blowing through hundreds of thousands of dollars of money to lawyers and probate fees when it was completely unnecessary. And so with a little bit of your help, you're going to be able to take care of your family. I want you to be able to walk away today knowing exactly what you need to do to take care and live out the values that we all hold dear. Because if we don't live these things out, if we just say they're important to us, but we don't take action, I don't know. I don't think they're really important to us. I think we have to follow through with action. Now, look, if you need help immediately and you're just chomping at the bit, give us a call or go to our website. We've got folks who are ready and happy to help. My team we're all just as passionate about what we do as I am. Call us at 480-750-7788 and leave us a message. My team will call you back first thing Monday morning. Or you can jump on our website. We got a special one just for you radio listeners, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. And you can schedule an appointment right there. You can jump on and get our free checklist, which I'm going to talk about today, and add that to your file for each week that we're going to be adding a checklist. So you'll get one more for this content today. So what we got to deal with is what happened to Mr. Sleeth. This was not a uber, multi-hundred millionaire. This was a guy who had worked hard. He was a middle-class American, lived his life. He lived frugally. He saved for retirement. He thought he was doing everything right. And you know what? He was. I don't really blame him. He probably took advice from people who were smart enough to give him advice and led him to where he ended up. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of people end up who take traditional and typical advice. We're going to talk about that in the show today, about what's wrong with the typical advice that I hear out there. But what it ended up with him was 81 years old and literally in a courtroom with 12 lawyers and all of his family. And they're all fighting over three things. Where is he going to live? Who's going to take care of his money? And whether or not he should be locked up in an Alzheimer's unit. Now, if you know someone who's had Alzheimer's or dementia, you maybe have experienced that. And it's a terrible loss. It's a terrible disease. It can really destroy somebody's end of life. And it's really hard, and sometimes the absolute hardest decision that has to get made is placing them into an Alzheimer's unit where they can be safe and it can be as comfortable as possible for them, and they can get the best care for them every single day. Because family members who try to do that often just completely get burnt out, and the actual statistics show now they're showing that the caregiver is basically working themselves into the grave and dying first. So as hard as that is, this was a court battle over whether or not he was going to stay there long term. Well, after finding somebody to fight for him, they got a second medical opinion, got him off of all of these powerful antipsychotic drugs, and a month later, after all the drugs were washed out of his system, they find out he doesn't even have Alzheimer's. They find out, gosh, he's just 81, and he was released, and he went home. And you know what he found at home? He found his beautiful home in Paradise Valley a gigantic mess. His utilities cut off because they weren't being paid, and his $1.4 million net worth basically wiped out. It's insane. Over $1 million he had saved to take care of his final years, to take care of his retirement, gone. Lawyers, the probate court, and all these court-appointed professionals just happy to get paid out of this poor guy's estate. And this was while he's alive. This is one of the shocking things that we're going to talk about today, is that the probate court hasn't changed. The probate court is still alive and well, and it's taking people's money while they're still alive. And if you haven't heard this message before, you've got to stick around for what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the 3 methods that the government uses to control your life through the probate system. The first one is a guardianship. The second one is a conservatorship. And the third one is a probate after death. And just with these 3 things that have been around for a long time and are still around today because, well, we're going to talk about why I think they're still around. These three things are one of the biggest financially and emotionally devastating things that families will experience. So stick with me as we go through it. If you need help, if you know, oh my gosh, I just need help. I'm in a guardianship. I'm in a conservatorship. I've got a probate nightmare. Or you just know you want to avoid it right now. Give us a call, 480-750-7788, or jump on our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. The first thing we do is make sure we're a good fit for what you need, and we do that in a discovery hour. Give us a call to see if it's the right fit because you don't want to waste your time. And my team will help you figure that out. And then we're going to dig into this topic a little bit heavier here. So stick around and let's learn what this is. Well, welcome back to Rethink Your Money. We are digging into the three methods that the government uses to control your life. And in this day and age, where the government can snap their fingers and shut everything down, we certainly feel what government control can mean in our personal lives. What we're digging in on is how it affects us when we're at our most vulnerable. And the story of Mr. Sleeth here in Maricopa County is just one of the worst nightmare stories that exist in Arizona when it comes to this. He was 81 years old and found himself literally in a courtroom with 12 lawyers fighting for his life. He was the court at that point said $500,000 is the attorney fee bill that you are responsible. And he was fighting to undo all of that. He was fighting to just get out of a lockdown unit at an Alzheimer's floor. And he was just fighting to take back control at 81. I mean, as somebody who, I have a wife. I've been married. My wife and I just celebrated our 19th year anniversary, and we have 4 kids. Come on. All we want to do is protect our families. All we want to do is take care and instill the values and help our kids grow up. And when we get to that stage of life, you know, as I've worked through helping clients plan their wills and trust in their estates and carrying those things out after they're gone, we realize there's basically 5 stages of life, right? There's that first, or I should say of adulthood. There's that first stage, right? We turn 18, woo, right? Party time. That's really the first moments in life where you've got to take some legal things seriously. There's some basic legal things you got to do at that age. Because your parents can no longer sign for you. They can no longer talk to your doctors, all that stuff. So there's some basic things that need to be done. So if there's an emergency, your mom or dad can find out what hospital you're in, what happened in the emergency. The next stage of life is newlyweds, right? Newlyweds, new parents, that phase where you get married, you have little kids, and everything changes. That's just a significant moment for lots of reasons. I remember getting married 19 years ago, right? And just everything changes. You're finally, for real, you've got your own life as an adult. At least that's kind of what I felt like. And you've got little kids. What more precious is there in the world that you want to take care of and nurture and grow and give them the best in life that life has to offer? It's huge. So there's that phase of life. Then we get to empty nesters where you've done the teenage years. You've gotten your kids. They're moving out and the house starts to feel a little empty, but maybe that's kind of nice. You can start to plan some vacations or whatever, right? You're not constantly in supervision mode. Your mental freedom opens up a little bit. Then we hit retirement, the 4th stage, where we're thinking about being done working every day, and we're going to start thinking about planning the dream trips and the bucket list items. That's retirement. And then the final stage of life we call legacy and care, because that's where, you know what, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families, and they say you can just feel when they move into that stage. That's where we're starting to talk with the adult kids who are in their 50s and 60s, and the mom or dad who's in their late 70s, 80s, 90s. We even have a few clients over 100 who they're not worried about money anymore. They know they've got enough to last. They're not worried about health even at that point. They know that something is just going to take them at some point. And most of them understand. They're at peace with that. And, I'm a man of faith. I believe there's life after death. And when you can see someone and feel them that they're at peace with those things, that's that legacy and care stage. And sometimes there's a transition where, I'm starting to just need some help. That's where it gets to be vulnerable. And that's where we've got to take care of our family, right? I mean, if we have been raised with family values, not only are we trying to instill those in our kids, we're trying to take care of our parents. And Mr. Sleeth here, 81 years old, completely financially devastated. His whole life was devastated, locked up in an Alzheimer's unit just to later be found out that he didn't even have Alzheimer's, that it was essentially these super heavy antipsychotic drugs that he was on that were causing him to be confused. Well, of course, who wouldn't be confused on these drugs? And you just look at that and you go, how can that happen? How can we take over $1 million from somebody to pay lawyers and professionals and the probate system just to put them on welfare in the last couple, years or months of their life and claim that we protected them? Well, let me share with you, that's what the living probate system in Arizona does. Now, if you find yourself in that system right now, please call my office. We take on a limited number of those cases every single month, only a few because they require a big commitment from us. Call our office, 480-750-7788, and ask for a discovery hour to see if we can help you. Or you can jump on our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com, get this week's checklist about these topics, and schedule your appointment. So what is a living probate? A living probate is the nightmare that Mr. Sleeth went through. And guess what? Thousands of other people every single year are dragged through these things in Arizona. So here's how it works. There's two sides to these types of cases. Okay? But how do you even get into one of these things? How do you get dragged into this? There's two ways. One of them is basically by accident. You're living your life, or your parents are living their life, and not intending to do bad. They didn't have all the best intentions. But something happened, a medical emergency, a car accident, a stroke, maybe it was Alzheimer's or dementia, declined to the point where they really can no longer make decisions for themselves. That is a trigger in Arizona. At that moment, bam, it happens. That's the set point of incapacity. And at that moment, you, your spouse, your mom or dad, they can no longer make decisions for themselves. And because they can't, Arizona law says somebody else has to. Somebody else has to make decisions for them. And that somebody else has to be legally designated to do that. And if they're not legally designated, guess what? You have to go to the living probate system to get that permission. Now, we're going to talk about in a few minutes here how to get that permission ahead of time before the emergency happens. But if you don't have that, then the only way to get it after the emergency is to actually file this lawsuit that's called a guardianship and a conservatorship. So you have to hire a lawyer, you have to draft up all the lawsuit paperwork, get it filed in court, and then you have to get your mom or your dad or your husband or your wife served with these legal papers, and then you have to go through a whole court battle. That court battle, they're going to appoint an attorney for that person who's incapacitated. They're going to pluck some stranger off of a list who's going to bill you their full hourly rate. They're going to pluck off a court accountant out of the court system to look over your money and the finances and make sure all the pennies are tracked and the checkbook is balanced. They're going to appoint a social worker to come out and investigate everything. And if they want to, they're going to appoint a guardian ad litem to give another opinion about what they think is in the best interest of your family, because apparently your family doesn't know best. They can appoint different medical experts, a neurologist, neuropsychologist, a physician. They can appoint a home health evaluator to help decide where you're going to live, where your wife is going to live, where your mom or dad is going to live. And guess who pays for all of these professionals? Yeah, you, your spouse, your mom or dad, whoever is the incapacitated person has to pay all these bills. And that's where it gets to be insanely expensive. And Mr. Sleeth, just his legal fees were $500,000. Just his legal fees were $500,000. Insane. And this wasn't for like 10 or 20 years of legal services. This was for a couple years during this whole battle. Now, thankfully, like I said, he found somebody to fight for him, took this case up on appeal, and was able to get some of that money back. Now, not all of it, only a couple $100,000. He still is out $300,000. Holy cow. None of us are planning a budget for that during the end of our life. So if you need help with this, if you want to avoid this, the first thing we do in my office is we do a discovery hour where we help you understand the issues, understand your goals, and make sure you clearly see what your options are. Our firm does things completely differently. Almost everything we do is flat fee. Nothing is a surprise with us. We help you know what the process is going to be, just like I'm explaining it to you now. Our team knows how to make sure you understand what's happening. So if you need that help, call our office at 480-750-7788 and leave us a message, or go to radio.keystonelawfirm.com. Welcome back. I'm attorney Francisco Servent, your host of Rethink Your Money. Today, we're talking about 3 methods that the government probate system uses to control your life. Holy cow, in this pandemic world, in this world of dealing with these racial relations and trying to make our society better, we can certainly feel, we are all feeling what it's like to have the government control our life. And we want less of that. And so what we're digging into right now is how the probate system does that with those who are most vulnerable. We talked about 2 ways that the government probate system uses. That's the guardianship and the conservatorship. Those are the living probate nightmares that Mr. Sleeth was dragged through. And if you want this week's checklist on this topic, just jump on radio.keystonelawfirm.com. Download it right there. Also welcome you to follow us on our Facebook page. Give us, if you have any questions about this topic, if you're going through something that's tough like this, let us know, because we will help. We will give you any resources we can. The third method that the government uses to control your life is a probate after we're gone, after we die. I was so blessed. My grandpa just completely out of the blue gave us my family, my mom, my uncle, and all of us grandkids, an amazing surprise gift before he passed away, years before he passed away. Actually, I was in law school and just showed up in the mail one day, this big giant manila envelope from Grandpa Baker. I'm like, what is this? He doesn't normally send me a big giant envelope with something heavy in it. And I opened it up, and there's this, basically a book. It was this fat report, essentially, that was coil bound and had a nice cover sheet, table of contents. It was almost 200 pages long, and it was called A Gathering of Tales. And it was literally a gathering of tales. It was his life. He had spent, I don't know how many years before that, just typing out one story here, a story there, something happened with this, something he remembered from childhood. And it's probably 100 stories of just Grandpa Baker's crazy life. It was amazing. I opened this thing and tore through it. I didn't put it down. I read every single story. I grew up here in Arizona. My Grandpa Baker lived in Kansas, and so I didn't grow up with him. Reading that book, I felt like I grew up with him. And if you have grandkids, there's not a better gift you can give them. He left us some money in his trust, I think $500 or $1,000, and I remember getting it. I have no idea what I did with the money. So if you're leaving money to your grandkids, that's a nice gift too. Guess what? I still have the book. The money's long gone. I go back to those stories. They're fun. They're engaging. They tell me, things, experiences and wisdom that he passes on. That's what we want that's what we want to be, how people remember us. The hundreds and hundreds of people and families that we work with, none of them want their family to have a nightmare when they pass away. Now, okay, you guys, I hear you. How many of you guys have told me, I don't care, they'll figure it out when I'm gone? Shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. That's the excuse that every guy gives me. But you know what? It's a funny comment. We all laugh, we all chuckle. That's totally fine. But I know that you are guys of family values. And that's what, if you claim to be that, which I believe you are, then you do something about it. Just like you've taken care of your family for decades and all these years through all the hard times you've been through, this is the kind of thing you do. You dig in and you become that man of action that you know you are. And you do something about it. You don't just say, man, they'll figure it out when I'm gone. You learn, you get educated, you stick around, you listen to these radio shows, dig in on our website. You'll find more information about this so you can learn how your family can be taken care of and how you can be part of protecting them. Because what happens after death, that's the third way, literally, the government will come in and tear your family apart if they can. Even if you have the best, healthy, strong bonds between your kids, between you and your spouse, it's happened too many times. You don't get the phone calls every single day at your business. We do. We get phone calls every single day from family members who say, my gosh, my brother, we great family. My mom passed away. My dad passed away years ago. Mom passed away, last year. My sister said she was going to take care of business. I haven't heard of anything. She hasn't done anything as she's supposed to. What's going on? She's still living in the house. Or, you know what? She said this or that. And there just starts to become this level of distrust between them. You don't want to be the source of that division. We had a client whose mom passed away unexpectedly, came to us and he said, Mom passed away. She did a will. Here you go. And, what do we need to do? And like his situation, if that happened to you, you are welcome to call our office at 480-750-7788 and see what you need to do. Go to radio.keystonelawfirm.com, get yourself scheduled, let us help you figure it out and give you some clarity about that. What happened with him was he had to go through probate for his mom. It was just him and his sister. Simple will, divided it between the two of them, shouldn't have been complicated. But what ends up happening, unless you've been through the process before, what ends up happening is the court sends out so much paperwork when you do a probate that it starts to freak people out just a little bit. I mean, when you get those notices in the mail that say you're part of a class action lawsuit, you kind of, should I do something? Do I need to do something? Whenever you get legal stuff in the mail, it's just uncomfortable, to say the least. And so when his sister got all this whole stack of legal documents in the mail, she asked her brother, hey, can I ask your lawyer, me, Francisco, some questions? I don't understand what all this stuff's going on. And can I ask some questions? And the state bar, the answer is no. We aren't allowed to answer her questions because we can't give legal advice to somebody who's not our client. It's annoying, but that's just the truth. So she says, oh, okay, well, I'll ask another friend. And so she did and got a referral to a lawyer and got a referral to a probate lawyer, of course. And that probate lawyer, for whatever reason, was able to use their lawyer crafty skills to plant some seeds of suspicion, is the best way I can explain it, that the brother wasn't doing everything on the up and up. And what ended up happening was this brother and sister, who had been basically, a perfectly healthy family, his wife, they were best. I mean, it was just, now she's hired a lawyer And the lawyer is sending all kinds of threatening, demanding letters. He's not doing this. He's hiding that. He's, not being transparent. There's not enough information. And it ended up with a 2-year battle, completely destroying their relationship. It was totally unnecessary. And the mom had the best intentions for their kids to just enjoy the inheritance she left them, for them to go on and have a wonderful life together. She didn't know she was being the source of that division, of that giant fight, of these, 5 figures in legal fees being wasted. She didn't know that she was doing that. If she would have known that that's what would have happened, there's no way she would have let that happen. This is the only way that, I should say, the 2 times that this happens, it's unintentional both times. It is absolutely unintentional. Nobody does this on purpose. It happens when somebody doesn't do anything, when you don't do a will, you don't do a trust, you just put your head in the sand and you say, you know what, they'll figure it out when I'm gone. My situation's simple enough, and I'm not going to learn any more about this. I'm putting my head in the sand. I'm done. For whatever reason, I've told myself, and that's the truth that I'm going to believe. Or it happens when you did something in the past, a will, a trust, something, and you didn't follow through on it. Something that I'm going to talk about this in a minute, I'm a huge fan of, is that you can't pretend like once you do this, you're done. It's like exercising, guys. I'm sorry, right? You can't say, did that once, I'm all done. It's like going to your doctor. You got to go back and get these things updated. And we're going to talk about how to do that here in just a minute. But if you know you need help, the first step is to get your discovery hour scheduled. Our firm helps people who are already in the mess, or we help you avoid the mess for either you and your spouse, or you and your kids, or you and your parents if you know they need protection. Get a discovery hour scheduled. That is your way to understand the issues that you're facing, help my team understand what your goals are, and clarify what your options are. We're doing those virtually right now. We can do them by phone, by video call. We have a really nice, easy system. We are on a limited basis doing those in the office, in person, when we can have appropriate social distancing. So call our office. It's 480-750-7788 and leave a message. My team will call you back first thing Monday morning, or go to radio.keystonelawfirm.com or shoot a message here on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get right back to you to help you get started. Welcome back to Rethink Your Legacy. This is Francisco Servan, attorney and problem solver at law. We're talking today about 3 methods that the government uses to control your life, and it's just such a giant thing right now. We're all experiencing some amount of government control, and it sucks. I just have to plain admit it. It totally sucks. My wife and I are going stir crazy. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the kids entertained. It's been the longest summer ever. Look, we talked about the 3 ways, guardianship, conservatorship, and probate after death, that the probate court system will literally dig in, control your medical decisions. They will control where you live, who takes care of you, how your money is spent, and then they will decide where it goes after you pass away. And all of this while your family is just being devastated and emotionally destroyed. Don't do that to them. It's our job as people who have true family values. It's our job to do what we need to do to protect them, to do whatever we need to do, whatever it takes. Now, what I want to switch gears a little bit about and actually talk about how to protect your family from these things. You can jump on radio.keystonelawfirm.com and get this week's checklist, where all of this content we give for you. Now, we've got a weekly checklist for every show, so stay on that website. Get back there every week, because each of these checklists is going to become your resource library for all the things you need to know about how to protect your family. And each week, obviously, we're talking about new things. So make sure you check back with us every single week, and you can kind of create this little family emergency binder of resources. So what I want to talk about is how to do this, how to protect your family. Because if you're somebody who claims to have family values, we better take some action on this. It was a big secret for me when I first got into this industry, when I found out that, if you find out, if you know of this, please tell me. I have not found a single professional lawyer, paralegal, LegalZoom, document preparer, anything out there that is willing to put in writing that your family will be protected by what you're doing. I haven't yet found a single one. And I'm part of a national group of thousands of the best estate planning attorneys. I'm part of a national group of thousands of the best elder law attorneys. I'm part of local groups. I'm a founder of the local Wealth Council estate planning chapter. Trust me, I know what the standard is in our industry. So far, all I have found, and all I've seen in documents that we review, and all I've even been trained by all these amazing associations, is that in fact, you as the client are required to indemnify them from the mess. So you go to them, get it all done, and part of that is a little fine print document that says, if anything goes wrong, you indemnify us. Holy cow. Isn't that a little backwards? After first being trained and learning that was, that's the standard of the industry. At first, you're a new guy. You just kind of accept it. And then I start to realize this feels bad because we're doing all these very sometimes expensive plans for clients. And then they come back, or their family comes back with a mess, and we're not at all responsible. When I started my firm in 2007, I said, you know what, I got to figure out a way. It took me a few years to figure out a way, and we finally launched something that we call a 10x no probate guarantee. You can get that in writing. You can look at that up front, and that means that if your family gets dragged into the mess, we'll give you a 10x no probate guarantee. And then we pay those fees, right? I mean, I want your family to be protected. And if you want that for your family, if you want a guarantee behind the work, call our office. I invite you, check us out. We may or may not be a good fit for you. I hope we are. If you're an optimistic, family-oriented person, I'm going to guess you would love working with my team. Give us a call. It's 480-750-7788. Or jump on radio.keystonelawfirm.com, or send us a message on the Facebook Messenger, drop a comment anywhere, and we will respond. My team will get back to you. Now, why do we give a 10x probate guarantee? Well, number one, I cannot live with myself. I just believe in doing things the right way by simplifying the process so that you can make sense of the chaos out there. I mean, if there's ever been chaos, this is definitely a time where we feel some chaos. And look, I know there are people struggling. I know there are people that are in these probate nightmares right now that are fighting a guardianship. They're fighting a conservatorship. You're either a loved one of the person who is now a ward of the state, or holy cow, if you're a ward of the state and you shouldn't be, or oh my gosh, if you're one of these licensed fiduciaries out there and you're a good one, there are some bad ones out there. If you're a good one and you just can't find the right firm to fight for you, we'd be happy to help. Look, the second reason we give a guarantee is because the accepted standard of practice in my industry is just no longer acceptable to me. Charging for professional services means we should stand behind what we do. So the courts, they give us numbers. They track all kinds of statistics. This is insane. You can look these up on their on the court's website. In 2018, the last year that they had statistics published, 21,255 probate cases were filed. 21,000 probate cases. Almost 14,000 of those are here in Maricopa County. That is insane. That is insane. Okay, I just have to ask you, where do you think there's more money? Do you think there's more money to be made in probate cases or in actually helping people avoid probate? Yeah, that's what I found. I found too. There's actually a whole business model. There's a whole business model in my industry to go out there and draft hundreds and thousands and as many cheap wills and trusts as you can. Just get as many as you can on the books. Hundreds and thousands of them, because guess what you've just done? You've created a giant, massive probate pipeline for your business's future. And you're just guaranteed to basically be churning probate cases for the rest of your life. And that's where the real money is to be made. That's why we're not going to do that anymore. So I flipped the risk. Now, my firm, we take the risk. If you go through probate, our guarantee, we pay the probate fees. You can get that in writing for all the details of how that works. I encourage you, call our office, get that and see what it's like. This is the only way that I have found to guarantee your family that you have done everything in your power to protect your family from having that experience that Mr. Sleeth had, where he lost $500,000. Essentially, he lost his entire life savings, over $1 million, because he got dragged through the probate court system. And where my clients, the one that I told you about, who him and his sister just completely destroyed and drove a wedge in their relationship. It doesn't have to happen to your family. Your family wants to know that you did everything you could to keep that from being their experience. So, how do we help? We first help you with a discovery hour. I encourage you, call and see if that's right for you. We'll help you understand the issues you're going through. We'll help you understand your goals. We will break down and make it very simple for you to see what your options are. Whether you're currently going through one of these nightmares right now, and oh my gosh, if you are, I pray for you. I pray for your family that you guys can get through this, that you guys can get through it without being torn apart. If you want to avoid going through that nightmare, please call us. Go to our website, 480-750-7788. Leave us a message. Our team will respond to you first thing when we can in the morning, or go to our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. See if you need a lawyer's help, if we are the right team to help you, and then get that first conversation on your calendar. Check in with us next week. We'll be back next week to talk about something I think a little bit more scary, the financial dangers no one tells you about as a widow. Take care, guys. Have a great Sunday.